Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we got to talk about Bryan Alvarez versus CM Punk. It came out of nowhere, but the feud continues. So, it was announced that AEW Collision will officially be June 17th. There was a quote-unquote misprint / typo of some sort that put CM Punk as being featured on Collision. Then it was retracted by Warner Brothers, who then said that he's not going to have anything to do with the show, which some people have led to believe is a spoiler. Then there was all sorts of stories coming out about why Punk was taken off. And Punk then lashed out at Bryan Alvarez. Now, what did he lash out at Bryan Alvarez about? Well, because Bryan Alvarez went on his radio show and posited some suspicious scenarios. So let's get into Bryan Alvarez, what he said about CM Punk that sort of, I guess, lit the wick for CM Punk blowing up later.
CM Punk is not on the poster. Not on there. Now, that could mean two things. It could mean that he got really mad and doesn't want to be a part of this anymore for some reason. No.
So this is point one. CM Punk got mad about something and doesn't want to be a part of this show anymore. Now, there is going to be a story that's going to feed into this narrative. So Alvarez is hitting on something, and usually when somebody complains, like Punk, he lashed out. You know what they say, what your grandma used to say, a hit dog, a holler. That's what it feels like when Alvarez comes out here and says, there's two reasons why Punk would be taken off the poster, or he would not be, taken off the press release or whatever. Even though I think this was before the press release came out, there will be two reasons for that. And he gives one is Punk is not involved.
This could be one of the reasons.
Oh, anything could be a reason. Can I just give the reason?
Hold on. Or that's going to be the big announcement tonight.
Hey!
That CM Punk is part of Collision.
People acting like they cracked a code because his name was taken out of the release. It's like...
Well, I guess it was after the release. Anyway, he was not announced to be a part of AEW Collision. So, yeah, that didn't happen.
In theory, none of this, you're not supposed to know any of this. That is supposed to be the big announcement. They got to announce Chicago, and they have to do that. I mean, it's silly.
Well,
hey, you know what? I remember that my mom bought me, what was it? It was some Zelda game. I think it was Ocarina of Time. Or maybe, no, it was Majora's Mask. I wasn't supposed to know it was there. But she never lied and said that it wasn't there. She got mad at me for snooping. That's what happened. Is that relevant to this? Probably not. Never mind. Let's just move on.
Here's the thing, Mike.
The Earth could collide into the sun before 8 o'clock, and it doesn't happen.
I know a lot about this, okay? He has gotten mad about various things many times, and it has been a tightrope walk with CM Punk. There were graphics with CM Punk on the graphic. Now there are graphics without CM Punk on the graphic. So it is not impossible that this deal with CM Punk has fallen through. It is not impossible.
So this is what Alvarez said that kind of started the whole shebang. He's saying that maybe Punk got mad about something and decided to pull out, and he's not going to be bothered with this anymore. That's interesting, especially since that will be the first thing. I naturally believe that they took him down because, well, they wanted it to be a surprise. They didn't want anybody to know. But Alvarez had a different idea. So from there, things got really, really weird because CM Punk went online and decided to go off on your boy, Bryan Alvarez. Oh my goodness. So he says, quote, Look, everyone, Bryan Alvarez doesn't like it when misinformed internet trolls make up rumors about him. So please stop making up rumors and stories for clicks while Bryan makes up rumors and stories for clicks, okay? He's married, for God's sake. By God, that man has a family. Brian Alvarez, shut the fuck up and stop talking about me, challenge day one. So, what is he talking about? Well, is he just talking about that one little clip? Well, no, because you know your favorite snoop on the internet, David Bixenspan, he is somehow in the middle of this. How is he in the middle of this? Well, because CM Punk went on Instagram and tweeted out an email from Brian Alvarez that says, quote, I feel stupid for even bothering to write this, but David Bixenspan is in one of his moods, and I have been reading the stupidest shit the last 3 days. If you ever talk to Punk about this, and I doubt you will, and I doubt even more that he'd give a fuck, please let him know that I do not, nor have I ever had any problem with him. It has been 4 years, and Bix still believes that I hold a grudge against CM Punk because he was dating Maria. The best part is that I am writing this on my anniversary weekend with my wife. I can only imagine the shit that has been written in another 4 years. So yeah, hope things are going well for you, and let me know if you need anything. Now, how did Maria get involved with this? Well, this is where we start getting into our favorite Snoop, David Bixenspan, because this guy, he maintains all the receipts. He is an absolute weirdo. Like, he just really holds on, literally, to everything. So this story goes back a ways. I'm talking a long way. I'm talking 17 years. Almost 20 years. So Brian Alvarez responded on Twitter like, what? That he got attacked by CM Punk out of nowhere. So then Bixenspan responds, the guy who you baselessly framed as a sexual predator in your newsletter a few months after you found out he was dating a woman you had a, quote, worked crush on, is still mad at you about it 17 years later. You know, that thing that you vociferously defended writing at the time. Because he's king messy. You know, when women say that men are as gossipy and messy as them, they're talking about Bixenspan. All right. He got nothing to do with this, but he's in here mixing the shit with the sugar. You know, he know what he's doing. So since we're already in the muck, what happened? Well, apparently, at some point in time in the past, Brian Alvarez wrote this about CM Punk. Quote, there's a ton of heat on CM Punk for a number of reasons. The stories of Punk rubbing people the wrong way backstage has been confirmed by so many sources that it's still pretty ridiculous that for anyone to deny it at this point. Whether he means to or not, he comes across as cocky, and a number of people have basically identified it as big fish in a small pond indie syndrome, which is what happens when a guy is a huge star on the indie scene and then gets called up to WWE and still has the attitude that he's a huge star, despite the fact that to the vast majority of the wrestling audience, he's just a guy. Then he says, quote, there is a belief that he's dangerous around the girls, and the term used was girls, meaning that just because he might be hooked up with a particular girl means nothing, or vice versa. That part is actually highlighted, the part where he's talking about that he's dangerous around the girls. Alvarez continues, I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's the belief. He basically did the ROH show last weekend without permission. The way it was described to me was that he was asked the wrong guy, and even that guy didn't give him permission to actually get in the ring and do a match. There was a tons of reports immediately afterwards that his job was in danger. It's been more than a week, so things may have blown over. So, because of this comment that he was dangerous around the girls, Bixenspan has jumped to the conclusion that Alvarez was saying that CM Punk is a sexual predator. That's his conclusion. This is why I'm telling you, look, this is why Bixenspan, he is good at collecting the receipts, but by God, he cannot read them. All right. He cannot read the tea leaves to save his goddamn life. Nowhere in there did he say that he was a sexual predator, that he was accused of anything. He basically just saying that CM Punk likes to fuck around. That's what he does. He fucks the chicks and he moves on. Doesn't matter if they have a girlfriend, if they have a boyfriend, or he has a girlfriend. It doesn't matter. He's trying to bang them. And he was a young man at the time. So what? So what? So Bixen's band continues. This is from 2022. He said, Punk's full of shit. His willingness to squash beef, there's enough baggage that I get why he framed wrestling media reporters about him this way. I mean, Alvarez, quote unquote, reported that, quote, there is a belief that he's dangerous around the girls in OVW in February of 2006. That's fucked up. So he posts another piece from the Wrestling Observer newsletter that says, quote, even just a cursory glance at the excess of rumors leads to wrestlers speaking with reporters. And that is undoubtedly a part of the intrigue behind the curtain in pro wrestling. But just because people are talking does not necessarily mean it is accurate. It's one side of the story. Punk says, my locker room is never closed. It's always open. Anybody who wants to DM the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer some bullshit can come and talk to me about it. So that's apparently from the Brawl Out situation. So Bixen's band continues to mix things up, saying, some of you thought I was just throwing random shade at Brian Alvarez in August. I wasn't. As I think has become clear today, Punk has held on to his anger towards Brian for a long time. But it's one case where, despite Punk being Punk, his anger is pretty fucking justified. So, Bixen's band, again, is mixing the shit with the sugar, being very, very messy on this edition of Love and Wrestling. Black Ink Wrestling, or whatever the fuck they're doing here. It's all quite sad and despicable, if we're being quite honest. But it didn't stop there. It didn't end there. Fightful decided to jump in. So, what did Fightful have to say? And what did they have to add to this situation? Well, so Fightful says that CM Punk, there were plans for CM Punk to rejoin the AEW roster, that there were active plans that began this week. So then we got more shite that comes out of this thing, as Fightful and PW Insider both sort of go with this argument that CM Punk is refusing to return to AEW unless they rehire Ace Steel. That seems to be what he's doing here, is he's holding out to make sure his friend gets a job back. So this is apparently quoted from PW Insider. The belief among those we've spoken with is that Steele was expected to return in conjunction with Punk next month, working behind the scenes. However, the story making the way around AEW backstage today at Dynamite is that a decision was made that Steele would not be working backstage at the actual Collision tapings. As you might imagine, that left Punk and AEW on opposite sides of the discussion, which in turn led to Punk being removed from all promotional material released from the AEW Collision series today. Is that so? CM Punk is trying to use his considerable bargaining power to get his friend his job back. And Tony Khan is maybe waffling on it. This actually ties into what Brian Alvarez was talking about on his radio show. CM Punk got mad at something. That something would be Ace Steel not getting his job back, and decided he didn't want to do this anymore. So Alvarez clearly was alluding to things that he probably knew. And he said it, he said it in the clip. I know a lot about this. So he knew what this was about and what he was alluding to. And he basically just let it sit because he didn't want to out it, pretty much. That this was all about getting him his job back. Now, that being said, Sean Ross Sapp, he is backing away from this whole Ace Steel thing by saying that Fightful is not reporting on why CM Punk is not going to be involved with Collision. Anybody who is has their own sources or whatever, and all this kind of stuff. I get it. I get why he's trying to get away from this, okay? Because CM Punk is coming for blood. He's going after dudes, and he is not playing around. But is it possible that if we could play into David Bixenspan's gossiping game for a minute, that Brian Alvarez had a crush on Maria Kanellis, now Maria Bennett, and found out that CM Punk was plugging her, and then decided to, hey, I'm going to spread rumors about that guy. Well, that sounds like absolute dirty Mac dog shit. But hey, who knows? I mean, a guy has done more despicable things for pussy, I can tell you that much. A man has dirty Mac'd another man for far less, if we're being honest. But again, this was so long ago that I don't see how it's even relevant right now. And to me, it seems like it's pretty silly. It just feels to me that Alvarez is friends with the Young Bucks, and he's just going to take their side. And, you know, they're whispering to him about stuff, and he knows things, and he chooses to let out what he knows, and he chooses to hide what he knows. I mean, it's not that big of a deal to me, you know, what's going on here. But CM Punk doesn't want me to take his side. He doesn't want you to take Alvarez's side either, really. He just kind of wants to air him out, and then you just sit by with your popcorn and eat, which I'm very well cool with, because I don't like Phil, and I don't like Alvarez. If we were to do the great scales of judgment, I would probably be, I don't know, I'd probably be a little bit more pro-Punk than pro-Alvarez at this point. But ultimately, I'm just an observer. A wrestling observer with no newsletter. But here is the important thing, and I guess this is something strong to end on, that CM Punk wants everybody essentially not to be tribalist and to basically just watch and weigh your options. Don't take anybody's side.
One more before I go really quick. The parasocial relationship a lot of fringe wrestling fans have with certain people is really unhealthy. I get the tribalism, like it's fun to root for your team, but picking sides seems a little silly. You don't know me, you don't know anybody else, so, you know, just go touch grass.
Absolutely. I agree with CM Punk. You don't know him. You don't owe him nothing. Go touch grass. Go do something special with your life. I mean, you got all these Saturday nights that you get as blessings from the high one above, and you're going to spend them watching Collision? No. Go touch grass, man. What are you doing? What do you mean spending a Saturday night watching RASSLIN? What's wrong with you? No. Go. There's plenty of grass for you to touch. All over the place. You could touch it anywhere. Consensually, of course. But go touch some grass, bro. Weird thing for CM Punk to say, you know, very weird. But he is correct. I would think he'd be talking about the Diva stands, because the Diva stands are a certain kind of pathetic. I'm talking a serious kind of pathetic with their parasocial relationship with their performers that they love so much. But I think that is very interesting. So for him to take a shot at the fans too, like, wow, didn't ask for that one. In any event, we are in a very weird time. You know, is Punk holding up AEW for this guy? You know, this Ace Steel guy who's completely and totally useless? I get why CM Punk would want him on the roster or work him as a producer or, you know, whatever it is he was doing. I get why. Why wouldn't you want your friend there? Why wouldn't you want your friend who basically sacrificed his job for you? Why wouldn't you want that guy there? I would want that guy there too. But at the cost of the company, I don't know. And if that was the case, why didn't they talk? They had 8 months to talk about this, 9 months or whatever. Why is it just now becoming part of the conversation? about whether Ace Steel was going to return or not. To me, if that was going to be a condition of CM Punk's return and being part of this show, that should have been ironed out. Should have been had conversations about that. That should have been dealt with. Sorry, but that really is what sticks with me in terms of why I kind of am not entirely sure about whether I believe that as an excuse of why CM Punk is not returning, at least not yet. I'm going to remain on the side of CM Punk is going to be the surprise. Now, there are some people who say that they didn't announce the first date of Collision because they want to see if this thing with CM Punk is going to be ironed out or not. If it's going to be ironed out, then it's going to be in Chicago. If it's not going to be ironed out, then they're going to go somewhere else. And I look and say, bruh, June 17th is not that far away. All right. It'll be here before you know it. It's already made. It'll be May 20th this Saturday. So you're talking about at least 2 or 3 more weeks. You have to set these buildings weeks in advance, bruh. You're not going to do like announce it on a Monday. Like you got to announce this thing pretty early so you can sell tickets and shit. So I don't think that they're going to say, CM Punk, you've got 1 week in order to make up your mind, and then we're just going to go off and do our own thing in a whole new city and hope that a building big enough to hold this show is free on a Saturday night. It's like, no, come on. They already got the building set up, everything. I'm thinking CM Punk is going to be there. It was interesting for me to watch him attack Brian Alvarez. That was fun. But just when you thought it was over, it's not. Here comes a new challenger, Nick Hausman, who used to work for Wrestling Inc. For those of you who are sort of new and maybe you need to be caught up, Nick Hausman asked Tony Khan a question about Colt Cabana at a Ring of Honor press event. This was right before Brawl Out, maybe a couple of months before. And Nick Hausman was then targeted by CM Punk, in which really he got started on the Brawl Out incident. That Nick Hausman, that very same guy, he's back talking about CM Punk. He's from Chicago, by the way. And he has his own site called House of Wrestling, Haus of Wrestling. And shortly thereafter, CM Punk went on Instagram and told everybody to go touch grass. This guy decided, nah, I'm not going to go touch grass. Actually, I'm going to touch my keyboard and put out another story that it's a mixed bag, depending on how you take it. So I'm only going to read the relevant portion. Quote, Nick House of Wrestling can confirm that Ace Steel was rehired by AEW, quote, several months ago, but has not been actively working in the backstage area. Steel was terminated by the company shortly after the locker room altercation following AEW All Out, but was rehired shortly after. Upon Steele's rehiring, he was told he would be working with Tony Khan on creative in some capacity, but his presence backstage would upset some of the talent. So for that reason, Steele has been working remotely for the company for the past few months. Let's stop right here. I'll get to the rest of it later, but Tony Khan did not learn from Dixie Carter, right? Dixie Carter, her secret emails and secret working with Vince Russo behind Spike TV's back, and that whole thing blew up in her face. Tony Khan didn't learn. He didn't learn from her at all. So now, of course, it doesn't say that the anti-CM Punk contingent didn't know about Ace Steel. We don't know whether they knew or not. So it's impossible. They may not be pulling a Dixie Carter, Vince Russo situation. Maybe these guys actually knew, and they was like, oh, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with him giving input. I'm cool with him doing this, doing that, or whatever. Maybe that's the case. I'm not sure it would be, because listen to the next part. Upon Steele's rehiring, he was told he would be working with Tony Khan on creative in some capacity, but his presence backstage would upset some of the talent. So, for that reason, Steele has been working remotely for the company for the last few months. There was an understanding in place that once AEW Collision debuted, Steele would return to the road for AEW, working as an agent for the brand. However, on Tuesday, the decision was made not to bring back Steele on the road with the promotion, and Punk learned of it shortly thereafter. Following that, there was some miscommunication between lawyers, and subsequently, Punk was pulled from the Collision announcement. I'm sorry. What miscommunication exactly? What kind of miscommunication? It sounds to me, and this is just my 2 cents, that Punk and Tony Khan made a deal. He would rehire Ace Steel. This whole new show and everything will be built around CM Punk. But in exchange, he had to rehire Ace Steel. And CM Punk had to come back. That was the deal. That's what it sounds like. Okay? If for any reason Tony Khan decided to renege on that deal or alter that deal, I'm sorry, that is not a miscommunication. You did not uphold your part of the deal. You changed the terms of the deal. The deal's off. All right? So if CM Punk found out that, hey, I agreed to do this whole Collision thing because I thought Ace Steel was going to be on the road with me, and then you turn around and tell me, nope, that's not happening, well then guess what else is not happening? I'm not showing up. I ain't coming. So, I mean, CM Punk is just sitting around putting his feet all over the couch at this point. His feet is all over the furniture. He might as well start leaving his underwear under Tony Khan's bed. He's fucking his bitch. I hate to be vulgar in that way. I know there might be some young people listening. But how else can you put it? If this guy's got you over a barrel to the point that this guy bit somebody and he's saying, no, he should have his job back. What? I'm not even pro giving Ace Steel his job back. Look, I don't know what Ace Steel's capacities are as a talent, a road agent, or anything. I don't know that much about him. I've seen him in a match here and there. But if he bit one of your talents, he ain't welcome here. If it's true that he bit Kenny Omega, he ain't welcome here. I don't give a fuck what CM Punk says. He is not welcome. The idea of him working remotely is a little too much for me. He bit one of the talents. Right? He got into a fight with one of the talents. It's one thing for the talent to fight each other. It's another thing for somebody who is, I wouldn't say an executive, but an employee of the company, even though the elite are executives, in name only, hopefully, to get into a fight with the talent. How can any other talent look at you and say that they hold you with any kind of respect? On this issue, I'm with the elite. Are you fucking serious? You're going to have this guy backstage after he got into a fight with us. And it's not that we hired him because we need him. We're hiring him because CM Punk wants to swing his dick around and say, if I'm coming back, you got to bring him back too. Fuck all of them. I would say don't bring none of them back. What kind of rule is that? All right? Like, that's crazy to me. But Tony Khan is over a barrel right now. It seems like there are a lot of people, especially wrestling fans, who they are hinging whether they watch this show or not on whether Tony Khan, whether CM Punk is going to be there. That's what they're waiting on. They're hinging whether they're going to continue to even be excited for Collision about whether Ace Steel is even going to be there. That's insane. I'm sorry, not Ace Steel, but CM Punk. And CM Punk is hinging whether he's going to be there or whether Ace Steel is going to be there. So now the thing's gotten a little bit cloudy. It's a little bit cloudier. The question now is, what did Warner Brothers Discovery make a mistake? Put CM Punk's name and face on something, and then Punk said, nope, take my name and face off of this. I'm not going to be there because they're not going to rehire my boy. Or is it, well, they spoiled the surprise, we have to take it back because we don't want them to spoil the surprise. Now, I still, as I continue to record this video, I contend that it was a surprise that was blown up. I'm going to hold to that. That being said, CM Punk's issues with the media, of course, did not end. Because after he made his comments about Brian Alvarez replied on his podcast. And he says, quote, "I didn't get any story wrong. There wasn't one thing that I said in the show yesterday that was wrong. I still don't know why this guy spent I don't know how long on Instagram, which to me, it was almost like high art when he spent all this time on Instagram and then finished with a video where he told everyone else to go outside and touch grass. So yeah, I don't know Phil. You're right, Phil. I don't know you. But you know what? I do know a lot of people in AEW. I have heard from a lot of people in AEW. And I have heard from people in Warner Brothers Discovery. And they all said the same thing. There is an issue. I don't know why you're mad at me. Maybe you should talk to the people in your own company. Or maybe you should talk to the people at Warner Brothers Discovery, which is where I got the information. I didn't make it up. I didn't make one thing up. Why am I talking about CM Punk? Well, let me think about this. I do a radio show where my job is to cover wrestlers. You're a wrestler, and you're supposed to be the centerpiece of an announcement, and you weren't. Gee, I wonder why I would be talking about this now. You know what was going on here, and I got sucked into it. I didn't want to. This is the same thing that FTR was doing, and I shouldn't even say FTR. This is the same thing Dax was doing, and that is try to create, in the minds of the wrestling fans, some imaginary beef that I have with Dax Harwood or out with CM Punk. I don't have any beef with CM Punk or Dax Harwood. So, this is continuing. There's so many twists and turns in this thing. There's audio going back to 2006 about Brian Alvarez basically saying that CM Punk's his ceiling was ECW back when CM Punk was on ECW. So there's people who are unearthing, digging up so much stuff between these two. There's so much history, but in the middle of all of this is Ace Steel, Tony Khan, and everybody else whose careers and livelihoods and millions of dollars are hinging on it. CM Punk is arguing with the media rather than trying to figure out whether he's going to be at this show or not, and whether he should help fans become excited about this show or not. He's instead telling fans to go touch grass, to which I agree with them. Go touch some fucking grass. I prefer ass personally. Go touch an ass, a titty or two. Stop waiting. But if you got a little bit of time to waste, why not spend it being very entertained by these knuckleheads, these are so-called adult men, these messy sumbitches who can't manage to figure it out, who can't manage to tighten up their own situations. Ultimately, there's a lot of rumors floating around. We've talked about this. This stuff is what it is. Is CM Punk going to be back? I do believe so. Is he going to be at Collision? I do believe so. I do believe in the end, CM Punk will win. I think that Tony Khan wants this show to work. He wants All In to work. He's got millions and millions of dollars hanging in the way. Yes, it's going to be an absolutely terrible circumstance if CM Punk can manage to get Ace Steel his job back and get him back on the road, because then it's going to show all the other talent that CM Punk is essentially Hulk Hogan. If you hire me, you got to bring my friends too. And that's what people hated about Hulk Hogan. So I wonder what people are going to say about old Phil. You know, when Hogan shows up, you already know Hogan is like Galactus. You guys don't know nothing about comic books. Damn. Hogan is like the messenger in the movie 300. You know, he is Xerxes, and everybody else, his underlings, they show up first. Like when you see Jimmy Hart, you know Hulk Hogan is coming at some point, right? Same thing here. You go start seeing Danhausen's one of his minions. You know, all these guys are his minions. And then Punk himself is going to appear, and then you're going to know everything is all right. It's going to be an entertaining time. Sorry for the scattershot nature of this video. It was legitimately put together in bits and pieces. to try to create one coherent video. But this is what happens when so many different issues are happening at one time and so many different things are coming out at one time. Ultimately, if you got to this part of the video, only thing you really need to know is that CM Punk is continuing to have issues with the media. They're continuously talking about him, trying to make it seem like he's swinging his dick around, trying to force the issue, really holding Tony Khan over a barrel. And it's not necessary. Is it true or not? Who knows? We don't know. But we do know is it's been damn entertaining. Like this video, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.